This tape is being recorded by Edith Blythe for the Big Sioux River Valley Historical Society on August 28, 1981, with information graciously provided for us by members of the families of some of the old settlers of this area. The following information on the Nels Anderson family and the Julius Baker family has been given to us by Cora Baker Anderson and her daughter Audrey J. Anderson, presently living in Seattle, Washington. Nels Anderson, his wife Martha, and baby daughter Mary, together with Martha's mother, Grandma Monson, immigrated from Midtvet County in Sunnson, Norway in 1875. They settled first in Norman, Iowa, living there 7 years, in which time Martin and 3 daughters were born. The 3 daughters passed away in 1882 from a diphtheria epidemic. In 1883, the Andersons moved to Hawarden, where son Mike was born. The Andersons contributed greatly to the history around that area. At that time, the Chicago Northwestern Railroad crossed from Iowa into Dakota Territory, about 1 mile south of Callio. Hawarden was established at this junction, and early in 1892, the Northwestern Railroad continued into Dakota. The completion of the grade and tracks was seen in 1883. After the construction crew moved their shacks and equipment from this 6-mile point, they moved on to another site further west. The site 6 miles west of Hawarden had been purchased from Peter Johnson by Martin Flynn, who had secured a contract to build the first part of the line. After these shacks and stores had moved onward, the section house was built, and the Nels Anderson family moved in. The section house, built by the railroad in 1884, housed the Nels Andersons, immigrants from the Scandinavian countries, and other families from time to time. From this point, the railroad was maintained between Hawarden and Alcester under Nels' supervision. The Andersons lived in the section house 28 years, in which time 7 more children were born: Albert, Carl, Emil, Nellie, John, Ingwald, and Myrtle, making 13 in number. Of these, only Nellie Penning of Wisconsin remained. In 1910, tragedy once again fell upon the Anderson family. News was received that son Mike, a brakeman on the Yankton freight train, had been killed near the town of Beersford. He had been caught between 2 freight cars. In 1912, the Andersons purchased a home in the south part of Hawarden, near Hawarden's first airport. Martin, Carl, John, and Ingwald followed in their father's line of work, working on the Northwestern Railroad yard in Hawarden. The Nels Anderson family home was kept until Nels passed away in 1927, at the age of 78. He was preceded in death by Martha, who passed away in 1918 at the age of 66. Emil learned the barber trade from Fred Slocum, who had an established barber shop in Alcester. In 1910, Emil with Mickey McManaman started their barber shop under the old First National Bank in Hawarden. Prices at that time were haircut 25 cents, shave 15 cents, shoe shine 10 cents, and use of the bathtub 25 cents. Emil married Cora Baker, daughter of Julius and Ann Baker, also early settlers, and they lived most of their lives in Hawarden and vicinity. The Baker family history will follow. Julius Baker, his wife Ann, and 3 children, Mary, Arthur, and Azelia, moved from the state of Wisconsin to Lamars, Iowa in 1883. They farmed there for 4 years, in which time 3 more children were born: Louis, Laura, and Sarah. Walter, their firstborn, died in infancy. From Lamar's, they moved north of Calliope, where Harry was born. In the year 1890, the Bakers moved to a farm west of Hawarden in Union County, state of South Dakota. In the 10 years they lived there, 5 more daughters were born: Cora, Ethel, Lily, Edna, and Margaret. On the farm, help and equipment was traded between neighbors. The San Bedard family was nearest, so they were able to assist each other when extra hands were needed. Mrs. Baker and her daughters added warmth and comfort to the home by braiding rugs that would fit the rooms from wall to wall. They sat by the hour, cutting rags, sewing them into strips, and then braiding. The rugs were rolled up when they took turns having dances in their homes in the wintertime. One fiddler was all it took, with an ear for rhythm and music, to make them all forget the winter weather. As was true with families of that generation, they opened their homes to immigrants coming to this country. The Peck family accepted hospitality from the Bakers for a short time until Mr. Peck was able to provide a home for his own. These people so appreciated the help given that they never forgot. In the middle of 1900, they delivered eggs and cream to Mrs. Emil Cora Baker Anderson to show gratitude. Raising this many girls, the Baker home bustled with sewing, cooking, and the scent of fresh bread. Bread was baked every other day when there was to be a large group around. Cream was churned, and the cream, milk, and butter were dropped down into the well in sealed containers to keep them cold. These were traded at the old family store for staples needed. In the old school, which the children attended, their lunches were set on the floor of the entry, available to any little creature that made up his mind to enter. Needless to say, the day the skunk helped herself to someone's lunch, no one ate, but there was perfume aplenty. Winter was the best time to preserve the family's meats. Smoked salt was used on the hams and side pork, wrapped to hang high in the rafters until it was cured. Steak and pork chops were fried and then stored in stone crocks with the frying poured over the top to preserve. This was stored in the cold cave and kept for a long period of time. In 1899, tragedy fell upon the Baker family. Son Louis, just 16, was riding horseback to the school where a debate was being held. A family from Hawarden, riding in a buggy, didn't see Louis on the dark night and sideswiped him, catching his leg in the spokes of the wheel. The leg was broken and didn't get immediate care. A feather mattress was spread in the bottom of the buggy where they laid him to transport him to the only doctor available. That doctor in Calliope amputated the leg. In 1900, the family moved to the Brunskill farm east of Hawarden, farmed there 2 years, and then moved into Hawarden in the year 1902. The Baker boys were all businessmen. Arthur worked at the power plant in Hawarden for an unknown number of years. Louis had a milk route, and Harry owned and operated the Baker's automotive garage. With so many girls, the sewing machine was kept busy making the beautiful dresses of that era. A subscription to the McCall pattern book, dated 1910, was priced at 50 cents a year with a free pattern included. Mrs. Baker passed away in 1930, and Mr. Baker followed just 3 years later. Daughters Margaret Herman of Huron and Cora Anderson of Seattle, Washington are the only remaining members. The daughters married as follows: Mary Elby Henderson, a farmer. Laura married Dr. McCarty, a local physician. Delia married Bert Lushinger, a railroad brakeman. Cora Emil Anderson, as we spoke of before. Ethel W.W. Sporer, a railroad man. Lillian Johnny Anderson, a railroad section hand. Edna married Joe Sporer. Margaret W. Herman, a butcher of Huron, South Dakota. And Arthur married Belle Davis of Woonsocket, South Dakota. And Harry, Etta Glover. Harry Baker also contributed to Hawarden's history. In 1917, he attended the automobile school in Kansas City, Missouri, and in 1918, he managed the first oil station in Hawarden, the Manhattan Oil Company of Des Moines. During this year, he married Etta Glover. Etta managed the North End Hotel from 1926 to 1942, located on Highway 10 and Central. It was originally the Dr. Quigley home. She served meals to roomers from a most spacious kitchen. The room was lined with open shelves full of lovely dishes. The jewel tea salesman sold spices and wares, and in turn you received premiums of a set of dishes. These open shelves very interestedly showed off these lovely dishes. Etta was famous for her 4-layer white coconut cake. While they managed the hotel, Harry also purchased and managed the Hawarden Auto Service Garage, which he had until 1936. He also sold Oliver implements, and when business was slow, he was training dogs and horses. After Harry's wife passed away, he sold his garage and moved to California. In his younger days, he drove the buggy for Dr. McCarty as he made calls on his patients. This concludes the information given us by the Anderson Baker family.